Hey everyone, Mike Wolf here from Mike Wolf Mastery, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Lauren Cohen, and she's a serial entrepreneur, international lawyer, cross-border expert, originally from Toronto, now hanging out, hunkered down in Florida. And she's also an a global realtor, best-selling author, and sought-after speaker. And she has a really interesting story. When she was on her, coming back from her honeymoon, her husband was deported, and of course, Lauren was devastated by that. So she felt compelled to
At the time.
at the time, her then husband. Yeah, let's clarify that. Thanks for mentioning that. She felt compelled to find solutions for herself and others, and strongly believed she could make a difference. So basically, she got into the world of immigration, international law, to help others avoid being deported, and it's led her on this whole new career path. So first of all, welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you, Mike. Such
Great to have you here.
Pardon me?
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
So,
Always a pleasure.
tell us more about that. That sounds really scary. I can't imagine you're on your honeymoon with your then husband.
Right.
And
I did love him at the time.
so there you go. So were you like, what happened? Elaborate on that.
So it's amazing how you really do, just like with COVID, you have to turn adversity into positives and turn negatives into silver linings. And that's why the name of my book is actually Finding Your Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process. So I was married. It doesn't really matter how old I was, but I was married, and I met my then husband here in Florida, and he was from Canada originally. And I met him through his sister, and we got married, and we went on our honeymoon to Thailand. And on the way back, now he was in the process of getting an E2 visa, which is one of my specialties now. Mm. On the way, I was in the process of actually getting my green card, but one did not forsake the other. So we went on this honeymoon. Not even at the time, I wasn't in immigration, so I had no idea about the implications of leaving the country. And so when we were coming back, we flew through Chicago O'Hare, and the immigration officer said, "Sorry, he's not coming into the country." I'm like, "Huh? What?" Wow. They were very high-handed. They said that he's basically screwed the US government one too many times. He had been pardoned on a passing off in Cavendish Mall in Montreal, where he sold illegal Rolexes many years ago. And he was pardoned in Canada, but in the US, for immigration purposes, pardon doesn't count. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about, I'd immigrated myself, and I had a green card, so I didn't know. And so I said, what? So they expeditiously removed him. They put him in immigration jail, and they said, "See ya, bye." And I'm like, what? So needless to say, he was removed, deported, sent on his merry way to Japan, where we flew in from, and I was sent to Florida. And the rest is just a big mess of not so fun experiences, but it really opened so many doors for me in terms of finding solutions where they didn't exist, where everybody was like, no. It turned out that he didn't get in, but that was actually a blessing. Mm. And I learned so much in the process, and figured out ways to be very creative with ways to get people into the country.
Wow, that's quite the interesting story. And yeah, I mean, everything happens for a reason, and sometimes you just never know where things are going to lead you to. So anyway, glad there was a silver lining in that for you. So I know you do a lot of different things, and I know that you do cross-border law. You know a lot about immigration. What would you say is your number one, greatest skill or superpower?
Being able to, like I said, kind of being able to see solutions where others fail. The reality is that a lot of lawyers, as you know, since you decided not to go to law school, you were one of the smart ones. A lot of lawyers are very pigeonholed in their practice, including immigration lawyers. Actually, maybe in particular immigration lawyers, because immigration lawyers are specialists in immigration, but they don't understand the bigger picture. I'm a big picture person. I will look at somebody's dilemma, let's say challenge, and find a way to turn that into a positive, to turn, like right now, the borders are closed, right? Trump has eliminated for the rest of the year many of the visas that were my mainstay, that were most immigration people's mainstay. But instead of that being that, putting me off, it actually gives me the opportunity to build the relationships with the people and help them to achieve the different visas. Because the truth is that for Canadians, especially Canadians, but also from other countries, the visas that are the best visas for you are not the visas that are being held up. And now's the time, like to invest in real estate, to find your opportunities, to look for that silver lining and create the solutions and the strategy, because you need to get your ducks in a row.
Absolutely, yeah, makes total sense. So what are some of the inherent risks, involved when you're investing? As you know, I'm Canadian. A lot of my students and clients are Canadian. So what are some of the inherent risks, when you're, investing across borders, and how do you help, address and overcome those issues?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, many people that are investing passively, like many of your students, meaning that they're staying in Canada, they're not really visiting their properties, you're really managing it, your company is managing it, you have people in the US. So that's less of a problem than the individual investor that's going back and forth, making their own investments, running a business here, actively involved in running that business. So Canadians have a lot of freedoms, although I will say that I think those freedoms are going to be increasingly limited as time goes on, just because of all of the outflow of this COVID. Not just because of that, but because of the government. And there's been a lot of changes. So we don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. But the reality is that people that are running businesses in the US are potentially running afoul of the law by running that business and taking an income in the US. So let's say you're running events and taking in income, again, in the US, processing transactions, accepting credit cards, making money in the US, get a visa in place. You can do that every day of the week. You don't ever have to move, but it gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility, and you won't have a problem when you're crossing the border.
Right. So, let's say you did want to get one of these visas, and I know that you deal with a lot of different types of visas, but in general, let's go back to that, because I know a lot of speakers, for example, and I know some of them have actually got in trouble speaking in the U.S. Yeah. So, what are the costs involved if you want to get one of those visas? What does that look like?
So generally, you're looking at between, and it's obviously a range, because so if you already have a business in the U.S., to get the visa, you need a petition and a business plan and some strategy. Looking at give or take around $15,000, okay, to get everything, including the business plan. That's in your passport, done, 5 years. Then you renew it in 5 years, it's significantly less, a couple of $1,000s. Okay, but you can renew it in perpetuity every 5 years, especially being Canadian. It's a lot of, let's say, a lot of freedom. So basically, you're buying that freedom, that flexibility for about 15 grand in your passport, and then you can go back and forth without a challenge. And you also have more freedoms when it comes to setting up your bank account, getting your tax ID numbers, because you don't need to, like some banks have restrictions on foreign residents or foreign nationals, as you know. Also potentially getting access to mortgage funds, which most of your clients don't necessarily need, but a lot of individuals that are investing directly would need. They need to get mortgages. They need to get lenders. Lenders are increasingly reticent to fund foreign nationals.
Okay, excellent. And so what type of visas are available to, Canadians?
All of them. So the best visas are the E1 and E2. The E1 is a treaty trader visa. So what that means is, let's use you as an example. So you have Mike Wolf Canada Inc. and Mike Wolf US Inc., just for argument's sake, okay? And Mike Wolf US trades goods and services back and forth with Mike Wolf Canada. You're say providing consulting services, you're renting your staff from Canada to the US, and the US company is buying that. That could be an E1. It's at least 50% of your trade in goods and or services with your home country. It doesn't have to be with Mike Wolf. It could be with Jay Facette or Joe Schmo. It can be with any company from Canada, as long as at least 50% of your trade is with Canada. okay? That is a really great and often overlooked option, which I actually call it the forgotten visa in my book, because people don't pay a lot of attention to it. But that's one of my favorite visas because I've gotten it very successfully from many business owners and several Canadians that have never left well, they've left Canada, but they haven't moved.
Right.
Like our friend, we're doing that for him, okay? So that's one option. The other option is the E2 treaty visa, which is based on investment. So in an E2, you have to have a substantial investment in a non-marginal business, neither term of which is specifically defined, of course. So what does substantial mean? So yesterday I had somebody ask me in a franchise setting, would $150,000 investment qualify? Well, in most cases, yes, but not if you're buying a massage company, because you're going to need to spend more than $150,000 to set up a massage place, right? A massage facility. But if you're setting up, let's say, a cafe or a pizza shop, or that might $150,000 might be substantial. So substantiality is determined based on the investment. Now, E2 is very popular with real estate, and I have done probably 200 real estate investment business plans and structure to get visas. Now, a lot of people think, well, how can real estate qualify? Not if you're buying single family homes, but when you're buying multifamily or setting up Airbnb or doing the apartment complexes or the commercial, then there are specific ways to make those qualify. And that's where the expertise that I have comes in. It's very handy because also I have that real estate license. So understanding the scope of what does it take? So when a real estate setting, substantiality is going to be higher because you're not going to have 100,000 or 150,000 in real estate that's going to be substantial, right? Because each property is generally going to, except in Ohio or Atlanta, be that much, right? So it's a substantial investment in a non-marginal business, and marginality means you're not just supporting yourself and your family, but you're actually hiring people and having an economic impact. So both of those visas are my favorites, but they're based on treaty. So the US has a treaty with Canada, but not with most South American countries, for example. Yes, with most European countries. So Canadians do have a lot of advantages. People think because I'm from Canada, I didn't have to do anything to get my visa. Let me tell you, that is not true. I mean, I went through everything just like my ex-husband, and I got my visa, I got my green card, then I became a citizen, and now I'm like, oh. As you know, because I've been telling you about it since this whole mess started.
Yeah, now you want to come back to Canada, right?
I wish so much. My nephew, so this morning, my nephew read from the Torah, which is the Jewish book, and he has his bar mitzvah on Saturday. And my family is religious, so they're not putting it on Zoom. They did it this morning, and I can't be at his bar mitzvah. And it's like, it breaks my heart. I was like crying all morning. So, but it is what it is. So at least we're safe. But Florida's not a great place to be right now.
Yeah, well, in the wintertime, I might trade spots with you. We'll see what happens.
In the wintertime, we can figure that out, but I'm not going to Calgary. I'll go somewhere else.
There you go. Exactly. I don't blame you.
No.
So I know you do obviously a lot of different things, and the visas are one of them. But let's say for my Canadian clients, maybe they don't want a visa. What other services? How else can you help them?
Sure. So I can help set up companies, create a structure, write your business plan, figure out where if you want to do some direct investing in addition to working with Mike, I can help you with that. I have nationwide access to realtors. I'm in a actually global company. It's in US, Canada, Australia, and England, and expanding to another 40 countries in the next 5 years. So it's pretty exciting. So I have access to listings and off-market listings and pocket listings, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do a lot of business together. And so I can help with all of that, and with structure, and with making sure that as you're expanding into the US or even into Canada, because I also bring people into Canada, I'm a lawyer there too. So as you're expanding beyond borders, my tagline is going above and beyond borders to help you live, invest, work, and play anywhere in the world. As you're going beyond borders, the key is that you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. So if you don't want a visa, how do you avoid needing a visa? How do you avoid those problems at the border? What are the things that you can do? The less actively involved you are in your business, the less problematic it's going to be.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I sometimes get clients asking me, hey, if I buy, and in this case, usually single family homes, if I buy X amount of single family homes, would that make it easier for if I wanted to go live in the U.S.? So for a Canadian looking to live in the U.S., what does that look like? Is that a one of those visas you mentioned earlier, or that just gives you to work there, or can you actually live there?
So absolutely. The beautiful thing about the E1 and E2 and the L1, which is currently on hold, as well as other visas, and EB5, which we're not even going to go down that road, but just so you know, EB5 is as a green card through investment, which means you have to invest a certain amount. Not right now, it's a minimum of 900,000 and create 10 jobs and you get a green card, okay? Very simplified version. But if all of the visas that I've mentioned give you the opportunity to live in the US if you so choose, and for your family to be here with you. Some visas give the wife or husband, the spouse, the opportunity to work. It's a derivative visa. The ones I mentioned, the E1 and E2 both do. And I prefer the E2 for real estate because it's based on substantiality of investment, and it's going to be not that hard if you have a few properties to qualify. Single family is more problematic because if you, let's say you own 2 or 3, do you really need to be here? My key determining factor is boots on the ground. Do you need boots on the ground? If you don't need boots on the ground, you don't need a visa. If you really should have boots on the ground, so to speak, not right now, but normally, think about it.
Yeah. So if you had 100 or 200 single family homes, then that might change the game, though, right?
That's a business. So the minimum threshold to even consider with single family is about 10 to even consider. Okay. And those would be, you're not buying and flipping, you're buying and holding, you're renting, you're managing. You need people. You need to manage it.
Yeah, because actually quite a few of my clients do have 10 or more, single family turnkey properties that they purchased. So, and I didn't even know that they could potentially do that. So I'm going to have to let them know.
I have done real estate investments. I remember when it first, around 2011 or 12, after one of the hurricanes here, when the property values were way down and everybody was taking advantage. And the immigration service was like, no. We're frowning on real estate investment because we don't want people to take advantage of the U.S. market. And I'm thinking, why? It's still money. Hello, what's the problem? So I would really fight. And the key is to have a really strong business plan. So a lot of people, especially Canadians, and I acknowledge this, will go and find a U.S. immigration lawyer in Canada because there's a lot of them. But the challenge is that they're not kind of right in the thick of things very often. So they're not going to fight the fight the right way. So I became, because of my background in the real estate license, I became kind of the go-to for the business side of the real estate investment model. And I've never had a denial. And we've done everything from construction to multifamily, to developments, to multiple single family, to Airbnb, you name it, everything and then some.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that I particularly like is that you have actually done the thing that the clients want to do. And so if you're a cross-border specialist, but you're in Canada, you may have not gone through you may know how to do it, but you haven't gone through the process yourself or for yourself. And so, I know you're considered a cross-border expert. So what's involved in becoming a cross-border specialist?
Well, I coined the phrase myself, so let's be totally honest. It's not like it's a specific designation, although maybe it should be. Maybe that'll be another business for me in the future. So why am I a cross-border specialist? I am from Canada. I live in the US. I am licensed in both countries. I have never given up my Ontario license to practice law, and obviously have experience. As a matter of fact, last week, a client in BC called me with a crisis. It was something that wasn't really a provincial matter, and I said, I don't really think I can handle it, but I helped walk her through the whole thing, and she was so grateful. So it's really understanding, there's very different mentalities. You know this, Mike. Canadians and Americans are very different, as similar as we are, and it's particularly prevalent right now. You can see because Canadians are much more compliant. You know, they're not fighting about, I mean, none of us want to wear a mask, but Canadians aren't fighting about wearing masks. They just do it. It's like, okay, we have to wear a mask. Mm. Americans, it's a whole thing, and it's the same in pretty much everything we do, and understanding those nuances and those differences. And as soon as I speak to a Canadian and they know that I'm from, like, especially from Toronto or a place I know, they're like, they feel this sense of camaraderie, this sense of peace, because I get it. I'm not just that American selling them some dream. I've lived it myself.
Makes total sense. And so let's kind of, okay, so we talked a lot of business here. Let's get more, I know you're kind of like myself, a serial entrepreneur. So I want to ask you kind of maybe some more personal questions that relate to that, and that might help some of my viewers. So, what are you passionate about? What makes you excited to wake up in the morning?
So there's two parts of that. The first is I'm a single mom. I have a 9.5-year-old, and we've had some challenges over the past few months. Yesterday was an interesting day where I found some charges on my credit card that I didn't expect. Wow. So that was really interesting. He's a little too smart for his own good, but he is definitely what ignites me and gets me through each day. And I really strongly believe, I work with a coach like most of us. Every coach needs a coach, right? So if we're not doing it alone, and one of the things that she says to me all the time is, does it ignite a spark in you? And if it doesn't serve that, I am going to say no every day of the week. What ignites a spark in me, and what took me a long time to realize, is to make an impact. I don't want to just do something for money. We all need money, but that doesn't do anything for me. It's actually helping somebody to accomplish the goal that they wouldn't otherwise accomplish. Helping them to make that investment across the border and do it without challenges at the border. Helping people to move their families if that's what they choose to do. So it does make me, it excites me, and it makes me tick. It does.
I love that. That's really cool. Great advice. What would be your advice for entrepreneurs, not necessarily in the real estate industry, but entrepreneurs in general? What are some of your top tips for entrepreneurs?
Don't do it.
Oh.
Follow your passion, because when you don't follow your passion, you're never going to be successful. And and there's going to be juts in the road no matter what. It's never a straight path. At least very rarely, it's like this. It's like going to the mall, and well, I don't go to the mall anymore, but it's like going to the mall. Like a woman goes like this, and a man, they say, goes like this, right? I go like this, okay, in the mall. But in entrepreneurship, you can never expect it to be a straight path, and you have to develop a very thick skin. And you also have self-care. Self-care through COVID has been so important. So looking after yourself, if you don't put the mask on yourself, you're not going to be able to look after your clients. And another thing that's really important is find things like, for me, I'm an Amazon junkie. Okay, my son said to me yesterday, Jeff Bezos should give you a call. I said, why is that? Because you buy so much stuff from him.
Yeah, so I think everybody's becoming Amazon junkies during these times. Yeah.
And if you don't bang your head against the wall trying, like I use Ship to deliver groceries, because it's not even about if the time, it's about, why do I need to deal with going to the grocery store? So find the things that make your life easier, because the less outside stuff you have, the more you're going to be at peace and be able to deliver. And also like meditate and work out and do all those things. If I don't work out, I'm a mess.
Yeah, more great advice. Thanks for sharing all that. And what are some of your strategies for keeping yourself on track and accountable? That a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that.
Have a coach. I didn't have a coach for a while, and now it's come full circle. you got to have a coach. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos. You got to have a coach. Okay, maybe not him, but you know, it's important. And there is no I in team. You have to surround yourself with people that you can trust, that will support you and support your goals and help you achieve them. Stay in your lane is a big one, because I think, especially being a lawyer, I had a friend of mine the other day. He says to me, I need you to review a very complicated legal document, but I wrote it. I'm like, doesn't sound good. So I said, okay. So first I said, okay, I'll do it. And he said, oh, I'm going to pay you. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. He did not stay in his lane. If you are a real estate expert, you're not going to pull teeth, right?
I hope not. Yeah.
If you are, it's not good. So, and bring in the people. Like in our community, there are so many great joint venture partners that do marketing. I'm not doing marketing. I'm finally building a funnel. I'm finally building, you know, you bring Quinn and Julie in to run your events, because one has the structure and one has the energy, and that's what it's about. It's so that you can focus on what you do best, and that's what you do. And if you try to do everything, you're going to mess up.
Yeah, that's really good advice, especially the part about, you know, having coaches and mentors. And you know, I would not be where I am and I still have, you know, quite a few people that help mentor me in various different aspects of my life. And yeah, I can't imagine not having that. And I used to be the opposite. When I first started, I thought I was a know-it-all. And,
yeah.
Anyway, I got know-it-all kind of results. So luckily,
right, I'm me too. Especially like I was a lawyer. I was like, oh, I'm a lawyer, and now I'm like, oh yes, I'm a lawyer. Like you have to be humble too, and accept advice, accept people wanting to give to you. That's a hard thing. Like you as a giver, it's hard to take, but sometimes you need to take and accept, because it's really going to help you grow, and then you can deliver back.
That's so true. That's actually one of the hardest things, is to be good at receiving. And I find that either people are really good at giving and they overgive and they have a hard time taking or asking for help, or you have people that are always taking and they never give. And it's very hard to have that kind of in between where you know, it's reciprocated. And I think that's important. It took me a long time to be able to ask for help and to receive things. So I totally love that advice. How do you feel about, like, what do you feel about balance? I think entrepreneurs really struggle with that. Most of them, they're usually either love what they do and they become workaholics, and they have no, you know, their relationships falter, their health starts to deteriorate. What do you think about balance?
I think it's fake news. Fake news. I think that anybody that says that they truly have balance is probably a little delirious, especially right now, because balance is a very personal thing. It's very subjective. I know I don't have balance, because if I did, I'd have more time with my son, and that would probably change a lot of things. You know, we have to strive, and I think consistency in routine is going to help you achieve balance. And but don't kill yourself. Don't kick yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. I'm hard on myself. I'm like, oh, you messed that up, or why didn't you work out for this long that day, or why didn't you do this, or whatever. Or you compare yourself to people on Facebook. Don't ever do that.
No, and that's great advice. You know, be the best version of you. Don't compare yourself to, exactly. Don't compare yourself to other people, and especially not the persona of them that you see on Facebook. Because speaking of fake news.
That's such, I mean, you see these pictures and then the next day, oh, we're getting a divorce. What?
Yeah.
You know? Okay, that's interesting.
But I actually feel like I did find pretty good balance. I used to be the workaholic, and I've worked very hard on myself to get to the point of being a playaholic, and then they shut down all these borders, and now they're ruining my balance. But I'm looking forward to things getting back to normal, so I can get back to doing the things I love doing. How are you finding?
When you reach a certain level of success, it's taken me a little longer to get there, because I had some twists in the road, like we all do. But I think when you reach a certain level of success, your confidence grows, and your ability to achieve that balance is greater. You know, I'm getting there. And it's a work in progress.
Well, for me, the key was, I got really successful at a relatively early age at making money. And so if you
Yeah.
measure success from that perspective, I was successful very early on, but I had no balance. I was really good at money, but everything else around me was falling apart. And I wasn't, particularly happy. And what made all the difference is over time, I turned most of my income into passive income where it comes in without me having to trade my time for it. And that gave me my time back to do, have time with my daughter and my grandkids, and do a lot of volunteering and a ton of traveling, and all that was possible because of that switch. And so I got really good at delegating and building teams, and also buying real estate that gives me passive income, as opposed to going out there and having to keep finding that next deal and to flip, make that paycheck. And so I think balance is, it's never 100%, but I think it is achievable to definitely a certain extent. And then sometimes you have to kind of tweak it as your life circumstances change. Sometimes you have to pivot a little bit. That's kind of the word these days, pivot. I actually think it's way over.
My group is Pivot or Perish on Facebook.
Pivot or Perish. I like that.
Yeah.
So I do think that
I'm sorry, Mike. Yesterday we were driving. There was some guys with the Jesus lives or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what it was saying. I'm sorry to say blah, blah, blah. But it was some evangelist walking around with their megaphones in the middle of the street. And then one of the guys said, pivot, I can't remember what it was, but it was pivot or something. And I was like, wow, that sounds a lot like my group. It's like so funny.
You got the marketing. That's really good. You get free marketing. I like that.
Right, exactly. I'll tell you, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And until recently, I have never built, and I should have, because I should have taken a piece of my clients' businesses as I was writing their business plans. I didn't. I was fee for service, lawyer, typical lawyer. Now that's different. And as you know, I'm part of EXP Realty, which is a residual income model. I'm all about passive income and creating that, not just for myself, but for the people around me, because you're right. That's how you achieve balance, knowing that every month you have that money coming in without you having to fight for it and look for your next deal.
Absolutely. That makes a huge difference. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they track you down?
Well, you can find me on my biggest resource is LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn at eCouncil Inc., ECOUNCILINC. And I'm Lauren Cohen, or Lauren ESQ. And my email is laurenesq@gmail. That's my personal one. It's the easiest, laurenesq@gmail. My new landing page, which we'll be relaunching soon because I'm building a brand new funnel, is eCouncil Inc. /go global. So it's ECOUNCILINC.com /go global. But I'm all over the internet. I've done tons of interviews and webinars, and there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming. I'm going to do a masterclass about investing across borders, and hopefully Mike will come and speak at that about Pardon?
Oh, happily. I would happily do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're going to be doing a lot of stuff together. So I'm very excited about it. And I thank you for taking some time today to spend with me. And this has been awesome.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom. And hopefully we inspired some people. And also, I know a few people that over the years have asked me, hey, I want to, a lot of Canadians who have had interest in moving to the U.S. and not knowing what the ins and outs were of that. So now I have a great resource to send them to. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for being here. I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. And if you found this helpful, please make sure you subscribe to the Mike Wolf Mastery YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up and share this with anybody who might benefit from it. So I'm going to tune out now. Thanks again, Lauren.
All right, have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day. Stay safe. And
stay safe.
We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.